It's funny that you mentioned support structures, and I think in strongman, like there is always kind of that support structure, right? Especially in like close-knit gyms like yours and whatnot. And that seems to be part of that style of training. In multiply, I don't think you can't do multiply powerlifting by yourself. You just physically can't. And you had mentioned something about it having, kind of pushing support structures away. And I don't think obviously doing multiply, couldn't have done that shit by myself, but
yeah, how are you supposed to even get that stuff on by yourself? You have to have friends who know what you're doing.
When I tell you I am so close to Adam, my training partner, because he was tucking that friggin' singlet with my bench shirt, and like, dude, your hand is in my crotch right now. And it's just like, are we related now? Like now we're related. Like this is how it's like, more about me than my doctor does at this point in time. But it's a cool thing to see the different sports. Like I want to hear what Joey has to say about his strongman training, going into a meet, going into a prep, going into whatever. Like you're never really by yourself.
Yeah, no, I love the strongman community. Hence why I run 3 or 4 shows a year out of the gym. I like getting into the community as much as possible. I love spreading strongman to just getting people more active with it. But that's why I love strongman so much, is just because the community and how you can be competing with people, but at the same time, everyone is screaming and cheering for you. Like I've seen guys who are handing them their gear. Like, you don't got wrist wraps, they're just like chucking them wrist wraps, or you don't have a belt, they're throwing people a belt. And it's ultra competitive, but at the same time, I think what makes it so special is that community. And the only thing I haven't competed in is powerlifting. I've been to powerlifting meets, but all the other, I've done bodybuilding at a young age. I've done Olympic weightlifting, and now being in strongman by far for me has been the best community that I've been a part of thus far. That's just why I love it so much.
Well, we just got to get you in a squat suit.
Yeah, no, I listen, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm sure at some point I'm going to do a powerlifting meet. Like my strength is going to do some other things at some point, but for right now, it's just been strongman primarily.
Yeah, and it's cool to see that. But because at the end of the day, like you're doing this niche thing, and you may be just all in a garage somewhere or a parking lot competing, right? You've done parking lot meets.
Yeah. You can't. That's why I'm like, we can take this as serious as we want, but you look around, you're like, we're in the middle of a parking lot right now,
right next to a Stop and Shop. Like,
yeah,
what are you
there's
doing
like the shady store that you're like, where are we? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought about that recently, and we're talking about what you get out of when you got finished a bodybuilding show and you're like, get me out of this, I'm done with this, I don't want to do this. To a certain extent, like I feel like strongman, outside of like the world's strongest man and those big theatrical events, has the problem of it just not looking like a big event. You see what I'm saying? Like when I stepped on stage at the Arnold at the Olympia, I was like, look at a cool glowing stage. It looks like this cool thing. Powerlifting meet is all these people packed in a tiny room screaming with this dude's head about to explode.
Yep.
This shit looks cool. The strongman's like, what is he, like Food Lion?
Yeah.
What's going on? I feel like strongman needs, and I don't know too much about it, but it looks like Brian Shaw is trying to change that with a Shaw Classic and some other things. Just trying to make it look more. Because you guys deserve a better venues. You deserve something that looks a little bit more like it's a thing, just to make it look more exciting.
So that's happening now.
Okay.
You got guys like Shaw. There's a guy, Anthony Furman, who's a 105 guy. He's got a bunch of shows he's putting out. There's the official Strongman Games, which has that look to it. So I think...
But even Rob Kearney now taking over
Strongman Corp.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think what they've realized is... there is the world's strongest man that has that spectacle look, and they're trying to bring it down to the lower weight classes to take care of the athletes.
Yeah.
And then that's hence why too, like why I'm trying to promote more shows. We're thinking, okay, what are like one of the events we want to do, we're trying to figure out like how can we make this a cool spectacle, right? Yeah. Like we want people to come out and watch this, and they may not know how heavy, like this sounds kind of crazy, but I was going to get a bunch of toilets and we're going to do toilet carries, and load them with concrete and weigh them up and make that a cool event. Because it's like, man, like I've never seen something like that before. And when you watch World's Strongest Man, they do have those events that they put a ton of money into, right? You got the Wheel of Pain and all that kind of stuff. And I think the athletes deserve that on a lower level, because that's going to get the sport to grow even more, and that's what we're trying to do here. So yeah, I would agree, but I do think there are people now in better positions who are starting to promote that, and you're seeing a lot more recognition for like the lighter weight classes, 105s, the 90 kg, like and below, which has been cool.
Yeah.
And actually, we just got corrected by Mason. He said Rob isn't taking over Strongman Corp. I guess the deal fell through.
Awkward.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I've always thought that strength sports and bodybuilding and all of them need, from the perspective that we're talking about, people always want, how do you grow this, how do you grow that, and all this kind of stuff, is I've seen all these over the years, and they've all slowly grown in different ways. Physique sports have blown up because there's more categories. So obviously more categories, more divisions is a way to expand and bring more money, into it. But just bringing the money into it doesn't solve some of the problems that people are talking about. All it does is give more money to certain people that are in each one of these organizations, right? So, and there's no mystery to that. If we're talking bodybuilding, when there's no mystery that there's corruption, that might be too strong of a word for what it is, but it's corruption. What it is, yeah. With corruption that's going on in other things, it's not even. But I think what needs to happen, and I've been saying this for years, is you have to have you need some type of board that is of lifters. Right. So when I thought of this when you said Rob, right? So he gets in there now. He's like a board of directors, but he's still a competitor. So this is where things get dicey with having a board that's a bodybuilding board or a committee that's going to help with these decisions of powerlifting, whatever it is. You're going to put the competitive athletes who I think need to be on this board, but their input's valuable, but their administration work needs to be minimized to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because they're competitors. Their number one thing is to compete and get better. Yeah.
It's not marketing. It's not any of that shit.
And you don't want to take that away from them ever, because that's why they're there. They're the sounding board to be able to tell the administrators, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. Right? But what happens is, and the administrators need to be able to hear that, listen to them, respond, and react. What I've seen happen, and it's not just bodybuilding, it's all of them, is the people that they might get in it right after they retire, right? So then they retire, then they get in it, their intentions are good. 3-4 years later, they're like, no, wait a minute. I can make how much on this show?
Yeah. Money, yep.
And like, no, wait a minute. So-and-so made how much on their show? So-and-so made 50 grand on their show. Why am I not making 20 grand on my show? Why am I not making 30 grand on my show? So then, because they're not that competitor anymore, and they're now a meat director, a strongman director, a bodybuilding director, and now their whole perspective is shifted to, and it's not bad, the business side of that. But they've forgotten, because they're no longer on the stage, on the platform, or carrying the, stones.
Carrying the toilets.
That I used to, in other words, you see where I'm going.
That's a great point.
So everybody agrees that, the lifters, they need to have a voice. That's all we ever hear anymore. They need to have a voice. Well, give them a freaking voice, but then give them somebody that's going to listen to what they have to say. And then they need to understand, just because they have a voice doesn't mean they're right. Right. Because they're still on they're still on the inside. Their thing is still doing their thing, competing. So yes, they have that. But that's what frustrates me, is because a lot of the times what you find is the same people that had those strong opinions when they were still competing, end up somehow or another 15 years later, 10 years later, being part of the sport on another level. And then they forgot about everything they used to bitch about. Oh. And it's like, dude, and you were the person that had these really good ideas then, but now all of a sudden, it's not so important anymore. And
so is it forgetting or selling out?
I think it's forgetting. Okay. I'm going to give people more credit than I probably should, but I really do. I think that they get in it and everybody's competitive, right? Obviously they're competitive. They're in a competitive sport.
Yeah.
So then if they become that meet director, they're going to be competitive as a meet director. How can they not?
Yes.
They're competitive as the other.
Right.
And most people don't see the world as being a world of abundance. They see the world as being one pie, and I'm going to get the biggest piece of pie I can get because the pie never gets bigger.
Yeah.
Well, the pie gets bigger. We know that, right? The pie can get as big as you want the pie to get. But these people don't think that. They're like, I got to be able to get in my people for my show. Fuck you. My show is better than your show. And then they'll do crazy shit like put it 2 weeks in front of yours just to be able to try to destruct yours.
Yeah.
And,
Which you do see, yeah.
Which you see, right? Because it's that they're not seeing that, hey, if we work together and put this aligned very real cool, then we can do better for everybody. And
so it's kind of pitting the athletes against what? Well, you got to choose. So you're going to do my show or that one, because they're timed in such a way it's like you really shouldn't do both.
Well, it's more than that, Juju. It gets to the point where they just create new federations.
And that's what you are
see what I'm saying?
actually.
So you see that, you've seen it in everything. It's like, no, screw you. Now I'm going to make my own. And it's like, what is this about? This is about the competitors, right?
Right.
I mean, everybody's going to lie and tell you that, but it should be about that, right? But so I guess what I'm going back to my point is when people ask me how do you make these things better, the answer to me is simple. Each one of these federations, no matter what they are, or committees or whatever they're called, set up a board of directors and make your best athletes part of that board and just sit down and talk to them. It's really not that hard. Fly them all out, because they're broke as fuck. They're competitors. Fly them all out, get a conference room somewhere and just sit down and just talk and
ask
listen
them what they want.
Listen to what they say. Now, you're not going to be able to do everything, but they might be really surprised when they hear things like, what I would really like is in the warm-up room or the warm-up area of your strongman, can you just have some water?
Yeah.
No, I'm not fucking
to have
kidding
enough
you.
plates.
We're just things to warm
You
up
have
with.
any equipment. You know what I mean? You're having to bring your equipment in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And say, I got my own lug. Screw you guys.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, just think about this for a minute, right? Let's say that was the conversation, and then you do 30% of what they said. And then the next time you say, hey, look, guys, let's meet again. You don't think they're going to want to show up? They're like, dude, you listen to me. I understand you got a budget like everybody else, but shit, you had plates, you had water. That creates momentum and traction. And that's not just strongman, that's bodybuilding, that's everything else. But
it was a good experience for the athlete. They're going to show up again.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. And they're going to tell other people, and that's how it kind of works. But for some reason, the athletes are the ones that always get shit on, which is your biggest commodity. I mean, that's what you're selling, right?